and circumstances that led up to it or didn't lead up to it, depending on your perspective. But incredibly, we've all of us overlooked the link that's been made by the administration to September 11th, 2001. We've been discussing it as if, oh, well, it's just Iraq and Saddam was a bad guy and we did this great thing here, or we didn't do such a great thing, or we violated the process of our original document, the Constitution of the United States, and whether it's worth violating that process for something that's debatable to the good of the nation. But in truth, at least I've read that the President's speechwriters are instructed either by Mr. Luntz or other poll takers and focus group kind of people, ad people, PR people, to say, to invoke September 11th, 2001 and to link it with the operation, the campaign in Iraq, because that's what resonates with a lot of people. And I think that any discussion of it, and we've managed to do that here for a good long time today without examining the validity of linking this campaign in Iraq to its supposed justification emanating from September 11, 2001, is not exactly a complete examination. So I think, and I betray myself as a cynic, nobody's a perfect blank piece of paper in this world. Everybody has a bias or a point of view, is another way to say it. And I think that it is disingenuous of the President to continue to link it to September 11th, 2001. And I was wondering what you think about that, and then we'll ask Scott.
It's no doubt the case, and I'm sure that there are good spin reasons for it, that administration spokesmen mention it in the same breath. But I think you'll find that, with the exception of one slightly clumsy statement by the Vice President, there's never been a direct allegation that the Iraqi Mukhabarat or any other of Saddam's forces were...
No, but he always says we were attacked on September 11, 2001, and then in the next sentence,
yes, I know.
And that's why we're in Iraq.
That is, if you were listening...
We're fighting them there because we don't want to fight.
I can't make you listen, but that's what I meant by... So that's what I meant by mentioning it in the same breath. That's quite different from saying that's where it came from. We know where it came from. Indeed, we went into Afghanistan, hugely opposed at every step by the anti-war movement, and removed, they now want us to forget that that's what they did, and removed the people who sponsored the Al-Qaeda attack on New York. But your question to me, therefore, could be rephrased, or will be rephrased by me, to read like this. Is there any reason at all to wonder about a connection with Iraq? I would say yes, there is. A rational person would have to consider the following things. Mr. Yassin, the man who mixed the chemicals for the attack on the World Trade Center in 1993, which was construed by some as a revenge for the eviction of Saddam from Kuwait, having been let go by our brilliant FBI after their first questioning of him, went straight from Newark Airport to Baghdad, as fast as he could, where the doors opened for him. Not just anyone can fly to Baghdad under Saddam, you know. You can't just get in any more than you can get out. The doors opened for him and they closed behind him. He lived under Saddam's protection, the most wanted man of the FBI for a very grave attack on New York, until the fall of Baghdad. He's still being looked for. He just got away. It's very annoying we didn't get him. We did get Abu Abbas, the man who rolled Leon Klinghoffer off the back of the boat. I personally met Abu Nidal, who was, before bin Laden, used to be the most wanted terrorist in the world, in Baghdad, where he lived in a villa with an official phone number that was in the telephone directory under the protection of the Ba'ath Party. The place was riddled with this kind of thing, and had become more and more and more Islamic, was the most fascinating thing about it. Another really stupid thing the CIA still says is, oh, you have to understand how secular Saddam Hussein is. That's one of the ways you can tell that someone knows nothing about Iraq, is to say that. The other, by the way, is to say it's a dead giveaway. Yes, I agree, Saddam was a bad guy. That's another way of knowing. People neither know nor care about Iraq. But anyway, Saddam was so secular, in fact, that he put a verse of the Quran on the Iraqi flag, where it had never been before, built a huge mosque in his own name, wrote a Quran which he says was written in his own blood. It's certainly blood. There was a lot spare going around in Iraq at the time. Turned Iraq into, and its media into an openly jihadist forum, constantly pumping out the theme of holy war. subverted the PLO by openly paying for the Islamist suicide bombers among the Palestinians, allowed his media to welcome the attack on the World Trade Center in 2001, the only regime in the world to do so, and suddenly, and lo and behold, and here's one thing that Colin Powell did actually get right in that terrible speech at the UN, Al-Qaeda people from Afghanistan find themselves turning up in Iraq. Again, a country not that easy to get into or get out of, including Mr. Abu Musab al-Zarqawi, who, as a Jordanian freelance with no previous experience in Iraq, seems to have done quite well, to me, emerging as a leader of a quite impressive movement that seems to know where everyone lives and how a lot of the power grids work, and other things like that that are very useful for campaigns of terror, almost as if he was working with the former police of a former regime who'd kept the records and understood how things worked. In fact, it's even thinkable that he knew these people before, and that the fact that there's now an obvious, direct, clear, day-by-day, intimate cooperation between Baathism and bin Ladenism may not have started just because George Bush was mean to them. It's possible, it's thinkable that that was in train before, and that some such horrible mutation would have been the successor regime in Iraq. So we're not talking about punishing the last one, because we took care of that. We're talking about forestalling the next one. And for these and other reasons that I've given, I think it would be very rash, in fact it would be very irresponsible, to overlook the possibility of a Hitler-Stalin pact, of a collusion between Baathism and bin Ladenism, especially since that very mutation is now our deadliest foe. Thank you.
Scott, and then you.
Well, I'm going to start off by thanking Mr. Hitchens for everything he's said here tonight, because it does represent something, and you rightly pointed this out, a process of debate, discussion, and dialogue that must take place if we are to call ourselves citizens of the United States of America. We may be in disagreement, but we're not in disagreement about this process that's taking place here tonight. So, having said that, I have to say that I take considerable exception to some of the facts that were just put out there. Well, we'll start off with Afghanistan in September 11th. You know, I, like others, watched the events of September 11th unfold before me on television with horror. One of the first things that came out of my mouth is, why did this happen? Who are these people, and why are they attacking us? These are important questions to ask, and they're important questions to have answered before we take the next step of responding. You see, without asking that question and demanding the answer, you haven't a clue what you're doing. To simply go off to Afghanistan and wage war against what? Al-Qaeda? Against the Taliban? I mean, I remember watching an American Navy commander brief the American people as the air war was begun, and he said, our first task was to destroy the integrated air defense of the Taliban. There was no integrated air defense of the Taliban. They had targets they were bombing. They didn't know what they were bombing. We were simply responding because of the President's visceral need to be seen as doing something after the horror of September 11th. And because of that, we have neither destroyed Al-Qaeda, nor have we destroyed those who gave safe haven and succor to Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda still exists, Osama bin Laden still exists, and some can make the case that Osama bin Laden's stature today among the Islamist fundamentalists who are anti-Western in nature has risen tremendously because of our inability to deal with him effectively. Now we move on to the issue of Iraq, trying to make a linkage between what occurred on September 11th and Iraq. We'll start with pre-September 11th. Yes, Mr. Yassin did, in fact, mix the explosives. And he did try to take down the World Trade Center. I don't know what his motivations are. I'll leave that up to the FBI and the relevant law enforcement agencies in the United States to make that determination. He did go to Baghdad, where, as the government of the United States knows full well, he was not received with open arms by Saddam Hussein's regime, but arrested and placed not in a villa where he lived luxuriously, but placed under house arrest. One of the first things the Baghdad government did is approach the United States and say, how can we transfer this man to you? They met repeatedly in Jordan and in Turkey with representatives of the State Department and the CIA to negotiate the transfer of Yasin to the United States. The one thing that the Iraqis wanted was a signed document from the United States saying they have received